This lesson is part of my complete Blender course on Udemy. The course teaches you almost everything about Blender in detail. So if you want to get the whole course, use the coupon code below to get it on Udemy with a huge discount. Also, you can get the full course on Blender Market, and this way you also support Blender. In this last section of our course, we will quickly talk about some of the other features of Blender in separate videos. So in this video, we're going to talk about animations briefly in Blender. So how do we animate things in Blender? What are the fundamental principles? As you can see here, we have a timeline, and this is the main place where we can play our animation. But how do we animate? Actually, there are three ways in which Blender can animate things for you, or there are three ways that you can take to animate things in Blender. The first way is just changing something and assign this change to a keyframe, different keyframes, along this timeline. Another way, the second way, is simulations, which Blender does itself. You don't have to keyframe anything. You just specify some different parameters, some different options, and tell Blender what to do, and it animates automatically. And the third way is the mix of the two. You can use keyframe and simulations and create some amazing stuff. In this video, I'm going to quickly go over all of that. I'll try to make it as short as possible, of course. Let's get started to animate these things. Alt-G to kind of reset its location. So let's have a quick animation. So let's make it larger, the timeline. So yeah, select this cube and just place the playhead to keyframe 1 or frame 1 and press I while you are in the 3D viewport. Press I. This is the keyframe, insert in keyframe menu. You can save this object's location, you can save its rotation scale, or all of these parameters. We mostly use these top options. So let's save its location and let's look at this keyframe. We have this yellow dot, which is a keyframe. So now we go further along this timeline and press I and save location again. So if we move, there is no change and there is this yellow line which indicates that these two keyframes are exactly the same. And I'm moving from keyframe to keyframe by pressing up and down arrows on my keyboard. Now let's change the value in this second keyframe. Just change the location, GZ, and I save the location again, the new location. Now you can see there is animation. So let me do that again. Let's select both. If you don't select, the keyframe is white. If you select, it is yellow. Let's delete. You can go to the beginning of the timeline by holding down Shift and pressing left arrow. By pressing right arrow, you go to the end of the timeline. So yeah, you can do these things from here too, like with these two buttons. So Alt-G to reset the location. So you keep the current location, like by pressing I, press location, you change the playhead to somewhere, you change the location, I, and save this new location. This is I think this is the simplest animation of all, but this is basically it. This is how you animate things. You can animate objects, different properties of the object. You can animate the transformations, you can animate the other properties, you can animate modifiers, you can animate some of the data here, you can animate material properties. So yeah, you can animate almost anything in Blender. Now let's check this. Press I and save location, rotation, and scale, and come here to 60, GZ, rotation, and scale, and save location, rotation, scale again. So now you have this animation. Now let's talk about keyframe interpolation, something called keyframe interpolation, because we need to know this. If we press play, you can see you don't notice it very well now if I don't if we have this duration longer, you can notice. If you noticed, at the beginning, it slowly moves, and it reaches the peak of its speed and slowly kind of decelerates. We can change the interpolation. We can make it linear. Now there is acceleration and deceleration, but we don't need. We need constant speed. Let's imagine. Select both keyframes. Press T. With T, you have all these kinds of interpolation types. You can choose linear, and now there is no interpolation. You can choose these fancy interpolation types, for example, bounce, or you can choose this elastic, which is crazy. So yeah, you can check out all of them. So this is what keyframe interpolation is. Let's delete all of these keyframes. Now I'd like to give you a few quick tips about keyframes before I forget to mention about that. So let's quickly give some keyframes to this simple cube, eye, rotation, location, scale. The thing I'd like to talk about is you can scale these keyframes. Select all keyframes and scale. Press S, you can scale them down or scale them up. And I'll show you a really quick tip, which is repeating these animations by using so-called F-curve modifiers. You can bring some modifiers by pressing Shift E and use make cyclic. And if I move it like that now, although you don't have any keyframes, the animation is repeated with the help of modifiers. Now I should go back just to get rid of that modifier. You can also repeat the keyframes by Shift D with Shift D and Shift R to repeat them in a manual way, as you can see. And this might be even better, right? Sometimes, although they are hard-coded. And also you can kind of inverse the animation by just scaling. For example, come here to frame 60, select all frames and scale it to the different direction. Now your animation is reversed, like so. So there are some better ways to reverse animation with the help of modifiers, but it is just out of the scope of this course. Now let's try to animate some other properties of the mesh. For example, we can give a modifier to the mesh. For example, let's see, what can we give? Let's give bevel modifier, and let's animate this amount. You can even animate this, as you can see. So let's save these for now, and let's come here to 40 or maybe 60. And let's change this to maybe 12. And let's change this to something like this. And let's save the keyframes. By pressing these, you can save the keyframes. Now let's go and see how it works. It's amazing. So we can animate these things too. Let's delete these keyframes. As you can see, you can click on these dots and animate any property. Whenever you see these dots next to these values, it means you can animate that property. For example, if you come to object data properties and there must be shape keys. Yeah, this is a shape key. Let's quickly talk about shape keys. You can save this shape as a shape key base, and you can create a new one in object mode and go to edit mode and change this shape, and automatically this new shape is saved to the second shape key, which is called key. You can create a new shape key and go into edit mode while you have this shape key active, go into edit mode and change it in a different shape, and this is also automatically saved. How can we see it? By the way, you can change the name, small head or something, big head. Now let's select the small head and increase the value. Now you can see it's changed, but it's not all. You can animate that. Press this, save the 0 value at frame 40, go to frame 60, increase it to 1, save it. Go to 80, bring back to 0, save it. And here, just save this value. And when it's 90, just increase it and save this. Now let's see how it animates. And in 120, you can just bring it down and save it. So you can animate the shapes. Now let's look at how we can animate some other properties like the material properties. How do we animate material properties? It's very simple. Just hover over any property and press I, and you save it as a keyframe, as you can see. Change the frame to, for example, 20, change the color, press I again, hovering while you're hovering over this color, come to another frame, change the color to something else, hover over this value and press I to save a keyframe. Now, if you play, the color gradually changes. This is how you animate material properties. Now you have seen 3 different ways of kind of setting a keyframe by pressing I in the 3D viewport and choosing these transform properties, or by clicking on these dots to save a keyframe, or hovering over a value and pressing I. You don't have to press these dots, you can just hover over this property and press I. So this is pretty much it. Now you know how to animate things. Basically, the process is like this. You have one property or one value or one shape, whatever, one transformation, right? You save this current value, current property or transformation at a certain frame. And when you save it, it becomes a keyframe. And you change time along this timeline, go to another frame, and change the value or property or transformation, whatever, and save that on that frame. And that frame will also become a keyframe. And whenever you move from frame to frame, from keyframe to keyframe, you will see the animation. So this is the fundamental principle. Now let's quickly talk about some other things that we have in Blender. Actually, there are tons and tons of options and features that we have at hand in Blender to animate anything, to create any animation. But this course is not an animation course, this is content creation course. But still, I really want to show you some very important features and options that we have for animation. For example, let's look at this timeline. Here we have a timeline. So one thing that you can see is these numbers. Now we have from 1 to 250. These numbers indicate frames. So frame 1, frame 2, and frame 250. And here we have some other numbers too. This indicates, shows where we are now, which frame we are now. We can change this to 1 and go to frame 1. This is the start frame and this is the end frame. You can change the end frame from here to, for example, 200 or maybe 10, and the time of the animation will become only 10 frames. So, but if you want to know how long your animation actually is, there is no clue here, right? It's 250 frames, but if you play this animation, how long time it lasts, right? How long is it? You can't just look at your watch or timer. You can't just start the timer and look at how long this animation continues. There is an easy way to see how long it is by pressing Ctrl T here, and the numbers change to seconds. And here, this is 10 seconds. This one, this place. If you come here, this is 10 seconds, and in frames, it's 240, right? It's 240 frames is 10 seconds. So doesn't it tell you anything? So 240 means 10 seconds, and which means 1 second is 24 frames. Actually, you don't have to calculate it this way. I always prefer to have frames instead of seconds. There is a really easy way. If you know what FPS is, you know what I'm talking about. Actually, you can specify the FPS in this output settings. FPS is frames per second. Now currently we have 24 frames per second, which means in 1 second the animation we will see 24 images. And the higher the number is, the smoother our animation will become. For example, if I use 60 frames now, 60 FPS for our animation, duration will become 4 seconds, because 240 frames, 60 frames per second will become only 4 seconds. If you play it now, it's much smoother. And yeah, for example, let's location, and the animation is much smoother now. It's 60 frames per second, so 60 FPS. Okay, 60 FPS is usually an overkill for animations. You can just get away with 30 or 25 even, and you will have a really great results. Now you know what this frame rate, these numbers mean, and this frame range. You can play your animation with by pressing spacebar or Control Shift spacebar to even play in a reverse order. And by pressing Shift left arrow, right arrow, you can jump from beginning to the end of this timeline. And also we have this thing called auto keyframe. You can, if you have a keyframe on any object or any property at the beginning, and then you don't have to keyframe it again, because auto keyframe will just keyframe it automatically. I forgot to turn this on. Let's turn this on and change the keyframe, change the frame, change the property, and it will save automatically, like so. Now quickly look at animating things by simulations, or physics force and things like that. Blender has a really powerful set of simulations. We will talk about simulations in a separate video. Now I'd like to show you an example of animation where you don't have to use any keyframes. For example, we have particle system, which is emitter particle system. This is also some sort of animation, right? You are not doing anything. Or let's say cloth simulations. Simulations are also a type of animation where you don't have to do anything, right? You don't have to keyframe anything. So let's give this kind of collision, and let's give this cloth simulation. And yeah, I think this is pretty much it, and we need to enable self collisions. So yeah, let's bring up the quality steps, and yeah, let's play. Now this is also some sort of animation, right? This can be another way of animating things, right? As you have seen, I haven't used any keyframes, nothing, right? And when we are doing things like these simulations, Blender automatically saves some files in cache. This is why you are seeing these bluish lines. Yeah, and whenever you update some properties values here, the cache resets, and Blender will save new cache again. As I said, the most beautiful animations will happen when you kind of use both of these features. Like you can use keyframe animation and you can mix it with simulations, and you will have amazing animations. So let me give you a quick example of that. Let's go into edit mode of this cloth, select all of these edges, vertices on this edge, and Control H to hook these vertices to a new object. With this, you can just move this hook object and move the vertices of this. Now let's give some keyframes to this hook empty. Here in frame 20, the hook object will be here, and in frame 80, this hook object will be somewhere, I don't know, maybe around here, right? So let's select this, and now let's kind of animate it. It's very strange because we should set some things here. In order for this to work, let's go into edit mode again and assign these vertices in a vertex group. Control G to assign them in a vertex group, and let's call this group pin group, right? And in cloth properties, in cloth simulation, you have something called pin group, and you can pin these vertices and kind of they don't move. Pin group here in shape, so we can use this pin group, and let's animate this one more time. Now it's working much better, but still we have one problem which we should fix very quickly. If you remember when we talked about modifiers, the order of the stack matters. So cloth and all of other simulations, physics properties here are modifiers actually. You can come here and look at these modifiers. So by default, these I added hook modifier after this cloth modifier, and this is causing the problem. Let's move this hook before the cloth, and then let's try to animate. Now you have this beautiful animation. You can play it in the reverse order, right? Like so. Or play it from there. You can add subdivision surface modifier after all of that and make it even smoother. Like so. So yeah, you have a lot of options when it comes to animation in Blender. There are tons and tons of stuff, as I said, and it's impossible to fit all of that in one video, even in this course, because this course, as I mentioned, is not about animation, it's about content creation. But still, I'm going to show you some more cool stuff. Now for the last part of this video, I'm going to talk about something really, really important. Because without this knowledge, I think your skills will be incomplete. So let me talk about this. So you can animate this, right? You can animate this, and you can continue animating it like this, right? For example, you can start from scratch. For example, you can just select this, press Shift D, and bring it here, right? And it comes to the beginning, like so. But there is a problem. There is a problem. We are using time, right? If I want to animate this again, I need to be after frame 80. Isn't there a way to kind of, for example, yeah, we have animated this, right? This is our animation. We're satisfied with it. And isn't there a way to save this animation somewhere, right? Isn't there a way to save it and delete it from here and make new animations? Isn't there a way? There is a way. So you can save your animations and just remove them and make new animations, save them again, and save a lot of animations in this blend file. And also you can export those animations to other software. How do we do that? By default, Blender saves animation data in so-called actions. Blender doesn't call them animations, but it calls them actions. So this animation can be one action. In order to see actions, we need to open Action Editor. Action Editor is actually a part of another editor, which is called Dope Sheet. So in this Dope Sheet, we have a few modes, and we have Action Editor here. And we have this name of the action. Let's call it Anim1, maybe, right? Animation 1. And now we can just save it with this icon, fake user. We can click on this and just delete it. That's it. Press Alt G, Alt R, and Alt S to bring everything to default. Now make a new animations. For example, location rotation scale. In frame 20 it becomes smaller, but rotated. Location rotation scale. And in 40 it goes up and slightly bigger, slightly rotated. Rotation location scale, Shift D this and bring it here to kind of bring it back, right? Now this is our new animation. So can we save this too? Yes, we can. Anim2, give it a fake user to save this data and delete it. and Alt G, Alt R, and Alt S, and use whatever. You can save other types of animations like actions as actions. So now where are they? Where are these actions? We have these actions here. As you can see, there are a lot of other animations which I deleted, but you have this 0 number next to all of these animations, which means after we close Blender, these animations will get deleted. But the last two have this F next to them, which means fake user. They have fake user just to save these animations, and no matter how many times you open and close Blender, they will be saved forever as long as you save this blend file. Now, can you use these animations again? Yes, we can. This is our older animation. Can we use the next animation? Yes, we can. Can we use them after one another? Yes, we can, but I'm not going to show you this because it's going to become a 2-hour video and it's going to become an animation course. You don't have to you don't have to do this now. You can go to nonlinear animation and you can kind of bring them here. You can go back to dope sheet and use this and push it down to kind of push this to nonlinear animation here. Actually, I'm using 2 animation 2s, so I can create a new animation here. So bring animation 1 and push it down and use it from like here and just play it, and they play after one another. You can kind of blend them, kind of blend in and blend out and put them on top of each other just to blend them like so. Yeah, you can of course save this as a new action and do a lot of cool stuff. So I think I'm going to go really deep into animation stuff, so I should probably stop here. So in the next video we're going to talk about some ways to improve our animations. Specifically, we're going to talk about armatures, rigging, bones, and stuff like that. And also we're going to talk a little about constraints, which help us a lot, which are specifically for animation purposes. So see you there in the next video.